I think One Nation's been the only consistent political party for the last 20 years.
They're not talking about you. All right, well let me tell you, One Nation is talking about you.
It's like the media's run away from One Nation. They're too scared to ask us any questions, mainly because we're straight talkers and we've got the answers.
This is like a call to arms. You guys need to start making the real decisions and who you're going to vote for.
All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of the ExCandidates podcast. I am Stephen Tripp, and I'm joined by the gorgeous and ravishing Rebecca Thompson and Mr. Zahra from Macarthur, the champion of Campbelltown, Adam Zahra. How are you guys going today?
Very good, Stephen. How are you going?
I'm very well, thank you, and thanks for everyone who have stuck with us. We had a few audio issues with the last podcast, even though it was very interesting with Dr. Harry's on. So we'll have to have Dr. Harry's back in the future just to maybe with some better audio. But we're very, very excited this evening because we have a man that's on here, a special guest. Throughout the campaign, you meet a lot of interesting people and you meet some interesting characters, and you also meet some inspiring people. And this man was very inspiring to me during the campaign. He definitely stood out as a man of integrity and someone that really wanted to help Australia. And that is Mr. Colin Grigg. How are you, Colin?
Good, thanks, Steve. Great.
So our pleasure. So you're the One Nation Senate candidate for New South Wales. You're also a pastor and a councillor at Lake Macquarie Council.
Correct. Yeah, got it in one.
Yeah.
Good to have you on, Colin. Good to see you again. You helped me out with my campaign as well. I know you came out to little old Campbelltown and you did a nice meet and greet for me at one of my functions that I had. So it was good to have you there. We prayed and we got prayed over, which was very nice, and it was a very good experience. So I'm glad to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you too, Adam. We just we feel linked to you guys, and there's a bond there which has just been formed. That's one of the things I love. Like I'm counting the fact that I didn't get in, and there wasn't much of a result. The fact that the friendships that I made, and and you guys are standouts to me too. So we just love being with you, and look forward to staying in touch and being together at least like once every 3 months or something, having a bit of a get together and different locations. So yeah, fantastic, and love being with you too, Rebecca, down in Camden that day. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And I remember you calling me, was it the night of the election or maybe the day after? Just to check in on me and see how everything was going. And you had me in tears at the end of the call. There's something really special about, there's something very special about who you are. So it's been awesome to get to know you.
I just have that effect on people, I make them cry.
You do, but like in a positive way, not in a negative way.
Tears of joy.
Yeah, and just like that feeling of being comforted and supported. It was nice.
Well, that's great. That's what we wanted to do, and that's what we want to continue to do, is encourage you guys, because you guys are the future. You guys have got the years in front of you. I've got a couple more maybe, but we'll see how we go. And but you young guys, you're awesome, and I just love you so much. And you're going to do great things in this life, and always aim for the sky and step out. And a tortoise has to stick its neck out to make progress. So, we have to stick our necks out if we're going to go forward. So taking some risks, not stupid risks, obviously, but, stepping out there and challenging the negatives, and turning them into...
We're definitely on the path, and we've got some big plans ahead of us. But just reflecting on your campaign, what were some of the highlights?
Well, I think the biggest highlight I just mentioned, which was meeting you guys and others. It was wonderful to get around and just meet people, and we wanted to be a source of encouragement and lift people up. And we believe that life is positive, even though things didn't go the way we hoped. I still think that the election was very positive for the freedom parties. And I don't know whether you heard, but apparently a UAP guy got in Victoria in the Senate.
Yes.
So, and Pauline's back in, which is wonderful.
Mm,
But
thank goodness.
I'm not discouraged. I think that, you know, you've got to get known, you've got to get out there, and that's what I would encourage you guys to do right now, is to stay out there. And it made my heart leap, Adam, when you said you want to get back to campaigning. And I think we just keep campaigning, guys. That's what we should be doing, and encouraging one another. And, you know, I was very encouraged with the stats that the major parties only got like 65% of the votes, or just over. And so it's the first time the AEC has had to do a recount, because they usually expedite things and just give all the preferences to Liberal or Labor. And I started to get suspicious about this two-party preferred word, and think there's more to it than just a word. And I think it was borne out when they had to do recounts in half the seats, because they just put preferences in places where they shouldn't have done. So is that corruption? Well, it's even if it's a mistake, it's still a bad mistake and shouldn't be made. But yeah, so the thing is, we've got to wake up the other 65 or I like to say 70. It's a nice round number, but there's still 70% of people out there who don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to vote. In my tripping around, you know, visiting you guys and visiting other places around New South Wales was a great opportunity. But in a lot of places, I was just explaining to people how to vote because I didn't know. And I think that in itself is a strategy that the AEC were running to and continue to run, because every election, state and federal, they change the way to vote. And you've got to catch up on how to do that. Now, I think last time I heard, I could be wrong now, I haven't heard lately, but a couple of weeks ago that over 500,000 people voted informal. And that's also counting those who didn't vote. But the fact is that it just proves the number of people who didn't vote, or who didn't know how to vote, or, you know, and to me that's a big problem. That, you know, even with the 6 above and 12 below the line, I'm sure there would have been people in there who put 6 above and then 12 below, you know, which would have made the vote informal. So it's too confusing. They should just have one method and stick to that one method all the time, so people know what to do when they get to that polling booth. And to me, it's just a strategy to confuse, and, you know, confusion just can send things just the wrong way. And I think that's what happened in many cases across that election.
I think when it comes to informal votes, if you can see that there's an intention to vote, you know, potentially they might not, you know, have all the preferences filled in, but they might just have the number 1 there or something like that. I think that should be enough, as long as you can show. Yeah.
Look, in fairness, that they do that.
Okay.
In fairness, if they can see an intention, what you intended to do, then they'll count it. But yeah, well, that's what I've been told by people who have worked on polling booths, and I've talked to a few.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I was of the opinion that if you just put a 1 above the line, that wouldn't be counted. But obviously, if you just put a 1 above the line, then that party would have got that vote, but then that vote would have been dead as far as preferences go.
But that's fair enough, though, because I think if you did put a 1, at least that one vote, it counted once.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it goes dead, then that's, you know, I was thinking like it should be probably even in the ballot, even in the House of Representatives, if you put a 1 somewhere, that should count. And then if it goes dead, then it goes dead. That's your preference then.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. You could have put a 1 in one person's name below the line. That would have counted. Yeah. But once if that person's vote dies, then you don't get a second choice. You know, when you put number 2, that's your second choice.
Yeah.
And et cetera up to 12. Yeah.
Did you learn any lessons? If we just look at One Nation, how we progress as a party in the future, what lessons did you learn from this election for us going forward?
Definitely, One Nation needs to get its act together with supplying materials. There were people who I know, I won't mention names, but who did not get their material. And I only got mine a week and a half before. So, you know, it's just not good enough.
And you're a Senate candidate, so you got to distribute that all around New South Wales.
I know, mate. You should have seen me in the last week. And I mean, you know, pre-poll was going, so there wasn't that many people who were willing to distribute. But, you know, thank God I had people who from out Penrith and Bathurst way who distributed my posters out through the Blue Mountains and further out west, you know, right out to Bathurst and up north of Bathurst and stuff. And I had some good ones going out around here, but obviously not enough. And because of the ghost candidates, I couldn't visit those places because there was no one there to visit. And by visiting, if I had done that, it would have just been showing that there's no real candidate there. So I decided that I wouldn't do that because it would put perhaps people who would vote One Nation off. And it was a way that was not illegal, but it was just a bit questionable, I think, on what One Nation should have done in that case. But going to every seat in Australia and then with 6 people in the office, I think that's a little bit ridiculous. But I think, you know, learned that lesson, and Mark's assured me that it'll be a much better run campaign in March next year. And if we're up and ready to go, candidates decided by October, although that might just be the beginning of the process, but we need to be up and running, you know, very early. So I'm hoping it's all done by October, and that gives us a full 6 months before the election to have our stuff and to be running with it, and not missing out and being last minute. I think that's the most disappointing thing that happened. I don't think it was totally negative, but I think we could have done better there. And calling up, you know, head office and asking for where's your order, and saying it'll be sent on Monday, and then a couple of Mondays pass and you still don't have it. You know, it's disappointing, but I still believe that One Nation has the best conservative policies. And one thing that I think we beat all the other parties on was our policy booklet, because I went to many meetings where no one had policies that they could show anyone. And they said they had policies, but yeah, so I could go on, but I won't, because there were different circumstances and different things that happened. I had an argument with a lady from IMOP one day, well, on election day, actually, in the morning, at a booth just across the lake here, and she was with IMOP, and her leader, I can't remember his name, but he said they only had basically one policy, and that was for no injections, and, you know, to protect the body and that sort of thing. But this lady got very upset with me because a guy came along and said, your party only has one policy, and she said, no, we have 40 policies. And he said, well, there's only one that your leader has said. And I just turned around and confirmed that, and then she got very upset with me. I actually apologized, and I said, I didn't intend to insult you. I just was agreeing with the guy, and because that's exactly what I'd heard. And so,
and the thing is, that's all that party's known for.
I know, yeah, and
nothing else,
yeah,
at all.
Yeah, I didn't apologise because I was wrong. I apologised for upsetting her, and I said it. Look, I had no intention of upsetting you. That's what I knew. That's what I understood. And you're the first one to tell me you've got other policies.
Well, you know, you hit the nail on the head about the policy brochure, because it's highlighting that One Nation does have policies to be a national government. Like, I think we had better policies than any of the, you know, major parties included. The biggest problem I found was the lack of media exposure. The media just didn't want to want to cover us and let us get our message out there. And as you know, we went down to the Spit Bridge that day with Mark Latham to announce a policy to alleviate the congestion in Warringah, and not even one media outlet turned up, despite sending that out to over 130 media outlets. So,
then the Daily Telegraph picked it up. Was it the Daily Telegraph?
2 weeks later. 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I know, but at least it got picked up, and you got a bit of a profile there before the election.
So I was also accused of only being a one policy person or party, and I'm kind of like, well, okay, but then we had a family law reform. We've got that. We had that booklet with 40 policies in it that as a candidate you all believe in, because otherwise you wouldn't be a candidate for that party. Okay, we're not encyclopedias. We don't have knowledge on every single topic, but you read through I read through them all, and I agreed with all of them. That's why I signed the dotted line to become a candidate in the first place. And then I had, not only did I have the 3 federal policies, but I was also I was also petitioning for, or to raise awareness about a second public hospital in the greater Macarthur region, which you would have heard me always was Alan Jones says that you say it till you're sick of it, and then people start to listen. And so I was, every time I went anywhere or spoke publicly, it was always about the hospitals. We're also fighting for a dedicated children's hospital. Our incumbent was a paediatrician until he became a member of Parliament, and the most he was fighting for was a diagnosis clinic in the hospital that's already overrun. I mean, they're still ramping ambulances. So we need 100% need a second hospital, public hospital, and then why not put a dedicated children's hospital in? I mean, that was one. I had about 3 or 4 policies on the fly and was still accused of being a single policy party. So.
Look, that's why we need more time. I think get an opportunity to do that, and I think we need to seek opportunities to get in onto media, and probably more so TV if we can. But so we need to come up with some controversial issues, and pound the desk or the table or whatever you want to call it with those things. And like Steve, no, it was you, Adam, I think, Alan Jones keep saying the same thing. And that's true just in church. You've got to say the same thing 10 weeks in a row before people start to hear the message. And that's just the way of the beast. It's just the way that people are. And there's a lot of, I'm sure, I'm not telling you guys anything because you've learnt this in the election, is that a lot of people just couldn't care less,
Yeah.
And that's what we've got to try and work on is making them care. And we did it through the freedom parties and that sort of thing, but we've got to break through in a bigger way, because really we're preaching to the choir, when we were doing that. And it was great. It was nice to be at those things, but we weren't reaching the other 70%.
I think we need to utilize our big hitters, our big names. Like Mark Latham is an absolute titan. Like, he is a titan in Australian politics. So I think I have spoken to state director about it as well. And I think that something like using him, not only because he's the best educated politician in the government, but he's also quite popular, and I think we should be able to, I think the party needs to utilise the big names. I think with Senator Hanson, with Senator Malcolm Roberts, we've got MLC Rod Roberts and Mark Latham. Those guys should be we should actually form like a team. So I think this is something that I'm going to push also in a few weeks when we have our shutdown meeting, is that if they're gonna do like an on-site kind of like press conference, They should give us a few days heads up or something like that. And the candidates running should be there. We should be in the background. We should be on TV. We should be showing us as a real force. I know that Rebecca and I really did team up. Our campaign, we did a lot together, and people saw that. People respected that. Not only would my volunteers help her volunteers help me, even by simple things, by spreading the message. You're getting double the broadcast just from people sharing stuff. So I've got friends on my page that are from her side, and she's got friends on my page that are from my side. And it's kind of like I think they need to utilize that much more, because being a minor party, teamwork is everything. The majors were copying us. In the end, I know that my candidate and the Hume candidate for Labor started copying our strategies. They would do the live feeds, and they would do meetings and stuff like that. They were monitoring us. We were told that they were watching us.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a compliment, but it only got us 8%. But I know we're building, but we still need to. I think we need to jump on the bandwagon of the big names. We need to use them.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think one of the things that was a downer for this past election was that Mark Latham and Rod Roberts had to be in Parliament right through the pre-poll, so they couldn't get around. I wanted Mark to come to Lake Macquarie, and he's done it before. I've had him in church, but he just said, "Look, Cole, I'm sorry, but I've got to be in Parliament. I can't be around." He literally ran out of time, and half of that was probably my fault because I hadn't lined him up early. But he went out. I went out with him to Dale. McNamara is out at Hunter, and spent a day with him, and that was good. I was in the background when he was talking to NBN up here, and I got to say something, but they didn't use my bit. So, but anyway, I got a bit of feedback. Oh, I saw you on TV. But anyway, But I think we've got to get that lined up, and I think in a couple of weeks when we go up to, I think we're there on the 7th of July, so it's not far away now. We don't even know where we're going yet, do we? I can't remember.
Top secret.
Yes, but I'm not going to announce it publicly.
We'll keep it secret because we don't want gate crashes. We want to.
This is not a private conversation.
I'll text you afterwards, Colin.
I can hear the Pink Panther playing.
Yeah. Exit stage left.
Yeah.
So
Colin, sorry.
Go ahead, Rebecca. Go.
I just had a question for Colin. What is it that you think we need to do to sort of break the loyalty that these voters have for the major parties? I mean, for me, in my area, we're a blue ribbon Liberal seat. It's a safe seat by 13%. And although the feeling for me out in the community was I had a lot of support, it's very much a Conservative electorate. In the end, he still got at least 40,000 primary votes. And I just wonder, what else could the major parties do to sort of get these people that just can't seem to break away from that loyalty they have? What moving forward, what do you think some suggestions are for us to sort of to tackle that?
Well, I think we've got to prosecute the case. We've got to be out there regular. We've got to be prepared to work to get in, and not just at election time. We've got to realise that we need to be out there now. We need to be out there today. And I've already been to a couple of meetings since the election. Not big meetings, but just talking to 20s and 10s and stuff, and encouraging them to get out there themselves, because what we've got to realise is we are leaders in this new thrust, and not see ourselves as lame or dumb or just useless and have no attention. What we've got to do is work hard enough to shame the press into coming and seeing us. And what I would love to do, and I'm hoping that we can start doing it from this meeting in a couple of weeks, is just, and Adam, you were alluding to it before, but forming just groups that meet regular and perhaps on forums like this, and we just talk and we share our ideas and we encourage each other and we brainstorm on things that we can do, news items and stuff like that. We've got to be continually looking at the news and seeing what issues are people passionate about, and we've got to shake the doors of the media down and get press from them. But we've got to be a little bit different to the kind of people they are, and we got to have the issues, a little bit of an edge on the issues. So that's where probably Mark could do give a lot of assistance to us to be able to know what we should home in on. I mean, like you said before, Adam, that Mark's got the attention of Australia, and he's just a real key guy out there.
And one of the ideas that Adam and I have is a One Nation candidate calendar. So where we all, Adam can be, January. Yeah. Are you in on that, Colin? You want to be part of the calendar? One question.
To take my clothes off, mate. No, it won't win any votes, believe me.
Well, you were elected for local council in 2016, and I hear all the time real change happens at a local level. You hear that from global bodies such as the United Nations and World Economic Forum, and even the Greens for that matter. They really focus on influencing society through local governments. In your experience, is this true, and would you encourage more people to enter the local government to fight for freedom and Australian values?
Yeah, look, I think local government is a great place to start. If you're going to get in, you only have to convince the people in your local government area. And I was blessed to get in on the first time I ran, which was a bit of a shock, and then got in again last December when there was another election for a second term. So it's being out there and showing people that you care. And even in the ministry, as part of being a pastor is just showing people that you care. You can't always fix the problem, and I mean, you're not Houdini. You just can't go out there and fix everything. Thankfully, a lot of things you can, but if you follow people up, like I had a constituent ring me just the other day, and I was actually driving back from Taree, and he got on the phone. I was actually heading to a council meeting. That's why I was coming back. And he was jumping down the phone on me. They're closing my road, and no one's answering me, and I've had no consultation on it. I have a business. He's a guy who makes dentures for people. And he said most of my clientele are elderly people, and you're going to close the road, and that blocks one end of the road, and people are not going to be able to park and all this kind of stuff. And look, in this case, I was able to help him because I took it to council. I got the attention of the staff and the mayor, and the next day we had a meeting and decided to invite these guys in for consultation. Now, it doesn't hurt just to get together and go and visit. And I think that's something in the ministry that I do as well, as visit people and say, how are you? You don't have to always change the situation, but you just show that you care. And so that gets votes. And if we can, we've got to get outside of the boat. We've got to get outside of our own little four wall rooms and be out there in the marketplace. And even when there's not an election, putting up a marquee or something at a local community day when there's a feast fest or there's just a market, and having a stall there and handing out policy booklets, or showing people the policies and handing out some, if you've got some left, some of your DLs or something, just to show you there, and your business cards. I mean, I know they would have federal electorates on it, but you can easily redact that and tell them where you're considering running next time. You don't have to tell any lies about it. You just have to say you want to run, and because you love Australia and you want to make a difference. And there's a lot of people, if you can just communicate that would be attracted to that, because, and we've got a lot going for us in the fact that, okay, I'm not an experienced politician. I haven't been around for 20 years, and yeah, there's a lot of things I don't understand, but one thing I do understand is that Australia's being ripped off, and that's why I'm running, and I want to make a difference. And people, I think people are interested in that. My campaign in the 2016 election was, because I had a guy saying, don't vote for this guy, he knows nothing, he's brand new, I've been in for 17 years, you know, and he was standing in front of me and saying this to people, and then I didn't mind that because he kept pushing in front of me every time I stood in front of him. And but people would, I just decided I'd stand behind him instead, and just as they're coming past, say, yeah, look, I know nothing, but man, you know, that's why I'm running. I just want to make a difference. And you know, I was winning votes. I was winning people over, you know, and that was about the same thing. It's no different really to what we did with One Nation, although I was running as an independent. But yeah, so just you know, being there, turning up, showing people, it is a commitment, and but it's something that right now we don't have to be doing 24/7, but we should be out there regular and talking to people in the street, you know, going down to marketplaces and just talking to people. You don't really even have to do any more than take a business card with you. And, you know, if you don't have a business card, you ran out or something, just get some more from Vistaprint. It's so cheap. It's like $16, I think, for 250 cards or something. It's just ridiculously cheap.
I overbought on everything. I've got stock. I've got stock of everything still. I've still got 2 boxes of DL flyers. I've still got a box of how to vote cards, and I think I've still got a whole heap of business cards left as well. So I'm good. I can just flick them out. It's all good.
Yeah. And you can't claim you're a candidate now because, you know, that's all been rescinded. But
it's all done.
You can say, you know, I intend to run, and I'm hoping to be pre-selected. For what's your state seat there?
Campbelltown.
Campbelltown, okay. So you know, start now. You want to win Campbelltown, and
yep.
The other thing is, it's a bit like a game of soccer. Just mark your man, mark the guy who's resident in the parliament, and try and pick him apart. You know, like you said about the hospital. I mean, there's a great one. You should go to the paper with that. You should write a press release and send it into the paper. Now, they might not print it, but the other thing we need to do is up here is call up the local paper and ask for an interview. The other thing here is also it's now our area is not easy. It's Labor dominated, right? The Hunter, but you know, I got in the paper. They rang me. And I thought, yeah, you won't even print it. But they gave me a really fair show, you know, like I was impressed. I thought, for a Labor Party paper, I was expecting they'd be bagging me somewhere, but I was saying, you know, we need to sack all these mainstream parties and let new people come in and drain the swamp, and in fact get a new swamp, which was one of the things I was saying a lot. But yeah, it's getting attention. And it's if you know people who are in the media, or you can befriend people who are in the media, and that's another thing you can do, ring up a reporter and get to know that reporter, you know, like hound them until they give you an interview.
Now, you're not just a politician, you're also a pastor. And now one of the things I've found extremely interesting is the correlation of Christianity and our system of government. Which I always took to mean, Australia is kind of considered a Christian country, which I always took to mean, you know, there's just a lot of Christians here, but it's not actually that. It's more that Australia, our system of government, our system of law is based on the teachings of Christianity.
That's right.
Now, I feel, and I don't know if I'm interested to see if you agree with me, but a lot of the attacks on Christianity that are happening is to discredit Christianity, because once you can discredit Christianity and get it out of the way, then you can have a field day with government, because You know, the whole idea, you know, with us, you know, separation of powers and constitutions, and basically these things that protect us from human nature. Once you take, that's all based on Christian teachings.
That's right.
Because Christianity is basically saying that there's no king, there's no queen, there's no lords, there's no one person that can be above anyone else. Everyone's equal under God. So
That's
a lot of, and you know, I'm not going to claim that I'm a religious person, I'm agnostic, but it's just so fascinating to me to see where our system of government has been based on those teachings of Christianity. And I feel that Christianity is being attacked and discredited just so they can go after, you know, Western governments and Western society. So how do you feel about that?
Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head, mate. I think you know, Australia is its constitution is more Christian than America. You know, we uphold America's constitution, but the Australian constitution is far better written than what the American one is, and that's why these guys attack it, because they don't want Christianity to be around, because Christianity holds them back. Now, if I get spiritual for a minute, there's every battle that I've ever faced comes down to one simple thing, and whether you agree with me or not, I'm convinced this is right. It's Satan versus Jesus, and you know, the left are atheists. They believe that, you know, all us Christians are just idiots and we believe in fairies and stuff. Well, you know what? If you believe in climate change, then to me, you believe more in fairies than what Christians do, because at least we know Jesus was actually a person who was on the earth, you know, and it's, you know, some people, and I think rightly so, call it a cult. It's a cult. It's a belief, because you've got to have a lot of faith to believe in climate change, because there's no evidence it's even happening. So they make up the figures and they convince themselves. And, you know, someone at this Canberra the other day in this conference I was in was coming against a motion to have nuclear power stations built in Australia because the energy is so cheap. But they're saying, oh, you know, no, it's so expensive, and, you know, it's going to be like $10,000 a kilowatt, you know, if we get, I mean, how on earth? They just talk garbage, you know. And I can see that you've read at least part of the Constitution, Steve, by the way, because you know what it says about King, Queen. Nobody can overrule our Constitution, and that's what's happening. They're trying to keep people ignorant so that people don't know what our Constitution is. The UAP in this election were talking about the Bill of Rights. And I kept saying, we don't need a Bill of Rights. We need to know our Constitution, because that is our defending document. And if I think if we start there, we need guys to read the Constitution. It's not a hard document to read. It's written in common law, which means the average guy on the street can understand it. And
do you think people understand what separation of powers is?
No, I don't think people understand a lot of stuff. I think that if we can get the Constitution into our schools like the Americans do, then they're not going to be able to do these things, because people are going to understand the Constitution. And like you, Steve, you're not a Christian. You call yourself an agnostic, and that's fine. But you also, like Mark Latham, he says he's an atheist, but he believes in the Judeo-Christian ethic that we live under, and will defend it to the hilt.
Because you can't argue against it, really.
Well,
at the end of the
it's the only true freedom that you can ever have, is to live in a Christian country, a truly Christian country. And yes, I don't call Australia a Christian country anymore, because there's a lot of people are turning away from God, and you know, part of my mission is to be able to demonstrate who God is, because He's not some figment of my imagination. He's real. We have people healed of cancer, broken bones, all that kind of stuff in our church all the time. It's a regular event. It's not like it happens once in a lifetime or once a year or anything like that. Just about everyone in our church has had a miracle of some kind, and so they have a testimony of of doctors being agape, with shock on seeing that people got healed of cancer and people get healed of broken bones. And one lady, she was said to have cancer in her ovaries. We prayed for her. She went to have a keyhole surgery for it, and they did scans on her just before they did the operation, and the doctor came back and said she'd already had a pre-med. This is how close she was to have the operation. And the doctor said, there's no need for us to operate. We can't see that you have a problem.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so they kept her in another couple of hours till the pre-med wore off, and she went home. But that's you can say it's coincidence, and look, in some cases it may well be. I try to be a realist and not try and convince people of things that aren't true. But there's undeniable evidence that we've had. And the Apostle Paul says in the Bible, he said, "I came to you not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but I came to you in demonstration of the Spirit." And by that he meant the Spirit of God. And he did signs and wonders and miracles with the Corinthians. So, I can't deny that God is real, because I know he is. I've experienced him. I've heard his voice, not every day, but I certainly get impressions every day of what I think he's saying. And I know I'm in a safer place because I serve him and I walk with him. And I know
Nation. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, One Nation, I found in my experience, and I think Adam would agree, we did attract a lot of devout Christians, and our supporters were all very much into their faith and into God. And I was a part of a prayer circle that the church that was helping Adam out with during his campaign, and it was honestly like the most amazing, surreal feeling. And I think we were probably the only parties, or one of the only, that we were prayed over and for so many times throughout our campaigns leading up to the election.
That's right. Yeah. Look, I met that was a guy I met at your church, not your church, your meeting place.
My meeting.
Yeah,
it was a good
he's
church.
An awesome guy.
Father Abel. Oh, sorry, Pastor Abel and Pastor Pauline.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing is that both Pauline and Mark just back up the Judeo-Christian ethic, and for Christians who probably would have been more liberal voters. There are some Labor voting Christians, but I don't understand how you can be a Christian and vote Labor, to be honest. But that's their prerogative. But they're voting for people who are against Christianity, and they're devout atheists, and they want to rub out Christianity. So why do you vote for that? I don't know. I don't get it. But anyway, most Christians were liberal, and they're feeling totally disenfranchised, and so they're spilling over to One Nation, because One Nation is the next most Christian party, with just what its policies are. So, and like you said before, Adam, I think it was, I just agree with all the policies. I don't have a problem with any of their policies. So it was an easy move for me to join One Nation. I did consider it for about a year before I actually joined and then ran in the election. But because I wanted to make sure it was the right place for me. So,
well, what led you to become a pastor?
What led me? This might sound a bit kind of hackneyed, but it was God.
I was going to say Jesus, right?
Well, he's the same guy. But look, the day I gave my heart to Jesus was the 5th of October, 1975. You guys weren't even born then.
Wow.
But that day I knew I was going to be a pastor. So it was a funny thing, but it's like you find your purpose for life, because we were all created with a God-shaped void, and only God can fill that void. We try and fill it up with money. We try and fill it up with cars, houses, other men, women, like whoever, just respecting the female side of things there, Rebecca. But, the only true fulfillment is God. And it's like marriages fail today because people marry a wife or a husband because they think that it's going to fulfill them. But what you have to realize is that if you lean on that person to fulfill you, they're going to disappoint you, and the marriage is going to break up. But when you have God, who's the one who fulfills you, I don't put any pressure on Debbie to be anything to me except herself. And I don't want to manipulate her to be somebody that she's not. And I think if I can just express one thing, that a bit of advice my mother gave me before I got married was, don't marry the one you love, marry the one you like. Because if you can be friends for life, but you know, you can fall out of love. And it's not that I don't love Debbie, don't get me wrong, I love her to bits, but I certainly like her as a person, and she likes me, hopefully. I think she does. She spent 33 years with me. So.
And she followed you around, and she companioned you around New South Wales while you were campaigning as well. She worked pretty hard with you as well.
Yes, she did. Yeah, she's awesome. She's my right arm. You know, she's incredible, and I'm just stunned by the way she got in there and drove me everywhere so I could use the car like an office and call people and, you know, type notes and stuff like that and make appointments. So yeah, she was fantastic.
Yeah. Do you guys have any more questions for Colin before we start to dive into some topics for the week?
You go, Adam.
Oh well, no, I was just going to say. I just wanted. I was just saying that we're happy to go. I'm happy to go into topics. But Rebecca,
I just wanted to ask quickly about with your sermons. Has the passion and the content changed since the election when you do your sermons, Colin?
Look, I'm blessed to have a church of people that really probably could all be One Nation members.
Okay.
and candidates. I don't push it down their throat, but I do point out what I see happening in society. And I don't know whether you're interested, but if you've got time, there's a Facebook page called New Hope Church, Kays Beach. And it's got my sermon on it from last Sunday, which I thought was very pertinent to the time and the things that are happening. Now, you got to accept that I was preaching it as a pastor and from a spiritual point of view. Because, see, the Bible says we don't fight flesh and blood, we fight principalities and powers. And I honestly believe that it's the spirits that are out there that we're fighting, and they get into people. But see, a spirit can't work without a body to work through, and you know, because Jesus loves the church and loves Christians, Satan hates them. And so, Steve, what you said before about, you know, it seems like they want to rub out Christianity. That's the battle. The battle is, as I said, Satan versus Jesus.
Well, the federal election just gone. A lot of people, even people who were agnostic or atheists, were even saying it feels like a spiritual battle. It felt deeper than just voting for red, blue, or yellow or orange. It just felt deeper. It actually felt like, and in the end, you know, I don't know how the party that won, but at the end of the day, it did feel quite spiritual. And I think even spirituality in me, I'm Catholic, or I've been Catholic all my life, but even the spirituality side awoke in me even more. And when I was looking at, like, people will go, why did you start running? And why did you decide to become a candidate? And I was like, I didn't really have an answer for it. And then I realized after the fact, hindsight's 2020, is that I was led down this path. Maybe I'm, you know, stupid enough to put my head out there to be a nail that sticks out to get hit. I don't know, but maybe I was, you know, I just have the courage to talk in public or something like that. But, you know, there was a series of events that happened, and then I could only put it down to God's work, actually. At the end of it, being Catholic and spiritual, I actually said, well, I believe that I feel like the first time in my life that I was actually led on a path
Yeah.
that Jesus has lit.
Yeah.
And that's my honest opinion of why I would have. I mean, my business was flowing. I've been busy nonstop. It's been crazy, and to pull up roots and just say, you know what, that's it. I'm only working 2-3 days a week, and then the rest of it's going to be for campaigning. You know, like it was a big thing. So, but I felt like I was led that way. And I just wanted to say one thing as well. My favorite probably line or favorite parable, whatever, I'm not sure the terminology is, you know, treat others as you want to be treated. Yeah. And I feel like that is a rule for everything that you do. I think political leaders should also, I think they should have this on their mirror or in the front of their diary or something every day, because I don't feel like that they're treating us the way that they would like to be treated.
That's right.
Yeah. So
spot on. I mean, they think they got the right to attack and pull you down, and that's what it's all about. It's just and this is why we need to know the Constitution. This is why we need to be up on the issues, because the left, they've only got one agenda, and the problem is that when they attack people who are Christian or conservative minded, which is what all of us are anyway, regardless of Christianity, they're going to want to pull you down because you're an enemy. But what we have to do is understand the battle is to pull you down, and the whole strategy is to get you to back off real quick. But when you come back with facts, they have no answer. They haven't thought it through. They're dumb. Someone said to me once, the devil's dumb, Cole. And I said, right. But when you think about it, they don't have a lot of brains. They've just got one thing they want to do. And they think there's this utopia out there that we're holding back, and they believe it. You've got to understand they believe this. And that's the whole premise of why they're so belligerent, because they think they've got to bring in this new world order and that everything's going to be better. You know, there's this utopia that you know we're going to get, and you know Albanese believes that, and so do all the Labor people and the Greens, and you know how about Adam Bant the other day, you know, removing the Australian flag? I mean, he should be sacked. I
100% agree
and
with that.
Lydia Thorpe
we should call him out.
Yes, that's right.
Denies being an Australian.
We should be calling them out. They should be gone.
Yeah. Speaking of the devil being dumb, this is the article here. Well, you know, it's a good segue. We were just about to bring this topic up when you mentioned it, Colin.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's even recoiled when a miniature flag was handed to him on Australia Day. Like, how sick is that, really?
Oh, mate, he's evil. I mean, that's the true interpretation. I'm not trying to just disparage, but that's what he is. He's evil, and what he stands for is everything against everything that we hold precious here in Australia.
Now, here's another one. Lydia Thorpe, the Greens senator, who said that her aim was to infiltrate the Parliament. Now, you got to understand, this woman is on a salary of $220,000 per year of taxpayers' money. Now, that's not just white people's money or it's every race, color, and creed paying tax, funding her salary, including Aboriginal people who are paying tax. Now, and
Steve, that's before allowances. That's just what they get.
That's minimum.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And as Ben Fordham mentioned earlier in the week, she was quite happy to upload photos of herself in the club lounge area of Qantas.
Yeah, Qantas Club Lounge. I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
So if she's really against being in Parliament and she's only there to infiltrate, well, why is she still accepting the money?
That's right. Yeah, if they truly believe, this is the thing, and it's not hard to see through it. And people, this is what's in our favour. People are seeing this kind of hypocrisy, and they're fed up with it. How many people, I'm sure, were saying to you during the election campaign that they're really worried about what's happening they're concerned about the way Australia's going. So, you know, don't be discouraged. People are waking up, and we had, you know, to win over the Freedom Parties, to win over like 30% of the people in Australia is phenomenal. So don't think that we lost. We haven't lost. We're just getting started.
Yeah,
But do you feel as though this needed to happen, this outcome for the election needed to happen in order to maybe shake people up a little bit more?
Yeah, hopefully that's what it'll do. I'm watching very closely, obviously, as you guys are too, Albanese and what he does. Have you heard what they're calling him? What is Anthony Overseasy?
No, yeah, he's gone. We've spoken about that actually in other.
Or the Aussie Biden.
Yeah, the Aussie Biden.
He's just left Australia again to go overseas. So that's his 4th trip, you know, since he's been in 4 weeks. So yeah, incredible.
So another one here, another interesting topic is this here. $25 billion to install another flagpole on the Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Yeah.
You know, how can they justify this, really? And I know another company has come out in the meantime and said that they quoted $600,000 or $700,000 to install it. How did this get to 25 million? The money's going somewhere, right?
Yeah, mate, it's just another, it's good because it's another example of the corruption that lies in the Liberal Party. And then you see Barilaro was offered $500,000 a year job overseas that he created.
That he established, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think,
you know,
sorry.
I mean, it's just wrong. Sorry?
I think it's a slap in the face to Aboriginal people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I've done work in Redfern in the block units that has a high Indigenous population, or it did when I was doing work about, it would have been over 10 years ago now. I mean, there was water cascading in the building that people were living in. Like, you know, I mean, surely, you know, some of that $25 million could have gone to really benefit the people. I mean, yeah. I understand the symbolism of the flag, and I, you know, I can appreciate it, but surely the Indigenous people would prefer the funding, you know, to actually directly go to making their life, to making a difference to their life. Because yeah. Look, I don't see how a flag flying on the Harbour Bridge makes any real difference, you know, to the Indigenous population and their plight.
If you follow Jacinta Price, you'll see what the real needs for the Indigenous community are.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm going to research Jacinta Price just a little bit more. I've just started to after the lovely Senator Hanson was on actually Alan Jones the other day on ADH, and and she did speak highly of Jacinta Price, and it was
amazing.
And it's somebody that I want to start researching on as well, because it seems that, you know, the understanding, and she really does, you know, have her feet on the ground and really does know what the Indigenous population needs, and you know, is what and has her ear to the ground of like what they're actually asking for.
Well, she was born in Alice Springs and she lives in Alice Springs, unlike Lydia Thorpe, who's been brought up in the city living the high life, so she's got no idea.
Hates white people basically, and her father's white, apparently, according to Senator Hanson was saying the other day on the TV.
And where does it all lead? Like, she's talking about infiltrating the parliament, but then what?
Isn't that not separatism?
What was she trying to achieve? Like, you're going to bring
monitor the colonization down? What was it? To monitor the colonial system, were her words.
So what's the end game? Like,
she swears allegiance to our parliament, our parliamentary system, but she rejects being an Australian.
Well, she thinks she's a revolutionary, mate. The Greenies think they're revolutionaries, and they're gonna overtake, and you know, they're gonna rule. But yeah,
that's fine. But what it doesn't seem to lead anywhere. Like, okay,
it doesn't lead anywhere. Like
this division. That's it.
You ask any Greenie or Labor left person what this utopia is they're talking about. They can't tell you.
Oh, they'll just say that's when they'll just say that it's you can charge your cars at night using the solar panels on your roof. That's what they say. That's their utopia. I mean, it's based in nothing. I mean, I didn't argue. I debated so many green, like volunteers when I was actually on election day when I went to most of the election booths, and just they didn't even know what the percentage of carbon was as a percentage in the atmosphere. So they're talking about how carbon's the biggest, baddest thing in the world.
They don't even
and then
know.
I said to the guy, okay, what is the percentage of carbon? Or what? And he goes, oh, what is it? Tonnage or percent? I said, percentage in the atmosphere. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to research it. I said, mate, you don't have to. It's 0.04%. So it's not even a high blood alcohol reading. Okay, I think you lose your license if you're a P plater or something like that, but a regular driver has 0.05. So it's kind of like they want to get rid of that to make the world better, and then starve the plants so that there's no more. So they can't even eat their food. They don't even eat meat, so they can't even eat their. Or well, not all of them, sorry, but they can't even. They won't even grow plants because there's no carbon in the air that actually grows plants.
That's right.
So that
it's carbon. They need carbon.
So that utopia is going to be processed food, artificial sunlight. And living in your basement, looking at your computer, charging your devices off batteries.
Did you hear about the Greenies' mission to the sun?
No.
No, I missed that one.
They decided to go at night.
That's a good one.
That's awesome.
All right, let's jump into some questions because we've kept Colin over an hour. So we'll go to Instagram, and Jemima. She asked, "How does he balance church and politics? Does he do? What does he do about the whole Christians have to support refugees argument? I've heard he's a pastor, so I'd assume he'd have some helpful advice."
Yeah, there's two questions there, so I'll answer the first one first. And I got asked this a lot on the campaign trail, but the fact is that as a pastor, I care for people, and as a politician, I care for people. I'm running because I care about the future of our country, and I could throw my arms up in the air and say, well, I'm getting older, I can retire now, and and I can just put this all behind me and live happily on a pension the rest of my life. But I don't want to do that. I want to, I care about you guys and the future that you are presented with. Long after I'm gone, and I see you guys as heroes. I really do, because you're not just being a candidate. You're standing up and having guts for people who hate you for what you stand for, and you're out there being public with it. And these people just want to threaten and pull people like us down. And I refuse to do that. I'm not going to do that. And I'm as stubborn about it as I am about my Christianity. It's just, I know it's real. I know this is happening, and I feel if I don't step up and do something, then I'm responsible. What am I going to say to my kids and grandkids in future days? So I think we need to put all of our efforts out there. I do wonder about the counting of this election with the number of teal greens that got in, and even the greenies up in Queensland. How did they suddenly get popular again? It just doesn't figure. Like, it's not just common sense that they would have done so well. So it's like, well, was there some Dominion machines out there with extra votes? I don't know. I can't say yes or no about that, of course, but because I don't have the evidence. But it's one of those things. I've got my suspicions, and I'll just keep it there on the shelf and keep watching and see what happens.
Did you see that Ben Fordham posted up on social media a few days ago the ballot papers that they found in the electorate for Neil Turner that had been dumped near the bins? That just gets you wondering about that, doesn't it? And where else that may lead.
Yeah, that's right. And we don't know what happened. If it happened in America, it can happen here. And I don't believe that that the people here are above that, even though there are some that believe. I mean, everyone is. We're all capable of corruption. It's making a decision to not be corrupt, taking the higher ground, and not taking the bribe. That's what we've got to do, because what the Greens and the left are doing is buying people off. I mean, companies. Why are coal companies shutting down their coal-fired power stations? Because they're getting lots of money to do it.
Yeah.
More than they get from coal. It's
Yeah.
just a business decision. They're not greenies. It's just a business decision. But they got enough money from the likes of Soros to be able to pay these people to shut down their coal-fired power stations. And what we're facing last week with the electricity blackout threat, it's funny, isn't it? The Matt Keane is bagging everyone about coal-fired power stations. Then he's suddenly begging people to switch their lights off because we don't want to have blackouts. But we know we need to get our coal-fired power stations fired up again. Germany's doing the same thing. I'm sure you're up on the news, you guys. China's still building more coal-fired power stations. And, we need to take a good look at ourselves, because if we're so against coal, why are we selling it to China and India, who are building
believe
coal-fired stations?
They were asking us to monitor our power and preserve our power while Vivid was on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know.
Turn the vivid lights off, right?
See, how much of a brain do you need to see this stuff? And I just believe that people, it's deception, and they don't want people to know these things, and they'll fight anyone who tries to stand up and educate people.
It's funny you bring this up.
Policy.
So it's funny you bring this, because we've got a question from Darren on Facebook. What is the solution or some options for our power supply issues?
Oh, nuclear.
We've been banging on about nuclear. We love nuclear.
Hands down. Actually, I'm meeting with a guy tomorrow, and we're going to talk about localized nuclear power stations. So they don't have to be monstrous things. These little green boxes you see around our neighborhoods, which are electricity junctions and stuff like that. Well, they're only about as big as that, but they can power up a whole suburb, these things, and probably beyond. But I'm looking more into it tomorrow. I can't say too much on it because I don't know a real lot. But I'm meeting with a guy tomorrow about that at 8:00 for breakfast. So we
should have him on the podcast.
Yeah, we'd have him on the. Can you talk to him about a podcast for us, please?
I'll mention it, and get back to you.
And now, Adam, you were researching containment through the week. Do you want to quickly talk about that? Because that was really interesting.
Oh, well, containment, it's just that containment it's a built-in safety feature for nuclear, like fission and power plants. And what I could understand of it, obviously no nuclear scientist here, but we had Dr. John Harries on. So he was explaining a lot about it last episode. So I've just continued to get information about it. But containment's built in. So if meltdown happens due to some sort of catastrophic failure, my understanding of is the uranium heats up so much that it melts through the reactor and drops down into a containment chamber, which is concrete and I think lead lined. Right. So what happens is it's not an actual. It doesn't actually. The uranium doesn't actually just explode and go anywhere. So when I did a little bit of research on Fukushima, those explosions that happened was because when uranium melts down, it releases hydrogen, and the hydrogen escapes up into the atmosphere, and that's what caused the explosion. So it wasn't actually a nuclear explosion; it was a hydrogen explosion.
Wow, that's interesting.
And then the uranium was still down in containment. So then they sent their robots down and had to assess the containment fields and all that kind of stuff. But that's a safety feature that's built in to nuclear power plants. We've researched and have spoken on the show about modular nuclear power plants, power stations, they're about the size of container trucks.
Yeah. And
they can be set up next to coal-fired power stations and tap into those lines. So we don't actually have to put out spend more money on transmission lines, which funnily enough, with all this green and renewable energy, guess what? We need to run all new transmission lines so that they can tap into our power grids. And there's been the Hume power line. There's been a lot of backlash about that one and that's the Hydro 2 plant.
Snowy Hydro 2, yeah.
Snowy Hydro 2. So they can't get people are rebutting about having all the new transmission lines come through there. So that's delaying the process even more to get that kind of power source happening. So I do 100% agree that nuclear should be on the table. I've had people, send comments through, but then you're talking about radiation, this and things like that. Yeah, but as far as nuclear goes, it's a very good option that we could have in Australia, and I think it's something that we need to put back on the table.
Yeah, well, we have new technologies today. Chernobyl was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Fukushima's getting back there, a decade or more, and I think they're learnt from these things how to make it safer, and these technologies are coming in. Even, like at the moment, the Labor Party's banging on about hydrogen, but hydrogen is going to be so expensive. It's going to be much more expensive than what fuel is now, in this time when we're paying, $2 up to $2.30 a litre. So the council that I'm in wants to be ahead in that field. They're a bit of a groundbreaking council, which is nice to be a part of. But at first I was excited about hydrogen, but then learnt how expensive it is to create. So I don't know that's the end. I think we should just cut to the chase and go to nuclear.
I agree with you there, because hydrogen needs to be also cooled down to liquid form to be transported.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
It's such a fine element that it actually escapes through steel. So
Wow.
it's actually it's a highly volatile, obviously, substance.
Yeah.
So it needs to be, so you have to separate it from what it's always with. So it's in, there's not I know that there is, I believe from what I just lightly heard today, that there are some hydrogen gas stores, like just hydrogen, but most of the time it's attached to other things like water, so it's attached to oxygen, so that makes the H2O, so that makes water. It's in, I believe, in oil or something like that as well. So they have to extract it from something else, which also takes energy. So unless, so it takes energy to extract it, to use it as a fuel.
Yeah.
So you can't, it's kind of like an endless cycle. And I'm not 100% brushed up on it, but that's the rough gist of kind of like what it is. So because it's a very volatile and hard element to transport, you got to put it into liquid form so you can transport it overseas or internationally, or around the country. So that's, that's energy. That's all energy. Whereas as Stephen and Rebecca and Dr. John Harry's discussed, was that uranium's in the ground. It's radioactive. We pull it out of the ground, we enrich it to use it as fuel, and then we store it in special facilities after it's depleted uranium.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I don't believe I think it's an old technology that we should be utilizing.
And it's not that green sludge that comes out of the side of the plant like you see on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lefty program. But yeah, look, my argument is the whole rest of the world's involved with nuclear. If we're going to have a meltdown, then we're going to have it anyway. And if it's going to destroy the earth, then Australia doesn't have to be what's going to happen? The whole rest of the world blows up and Australia's floating around in space by itself. Hello? Ding, ding.
Well, that's not going to happen, because you look at Chernobyl, only 47 people died, or a figure around that. I'm not exactly sure that's
37 it was, Stephen.
Was it 37? Something like that.
That was recorded. That was 37 recorded deaths directly related to the explosion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what we got to realize here in everything we're discussing and the things that we're against is this strategy. It's this plan that they have, and everything dovetails together you know, the price of fuel, why did it suddenly go up when the election was over? You know, now I don't even blame Albanese for that, but it's just another move of the left to try to disrupt and to destroy the Christian ethic, the society that we have, that's freedom and it's prosperous. You know, there's no better way to run a government. I mean, look at poor old Afghanistan. They had an earthquake there. What was it, yesterday or the day before? And you know, the Taliban are now coming to the likes of Australia and saying, "Please help us." You know, I mean, that's how great their system is. And yet, you know, Australia is prosperous enough to be able to help other countries. Every year, we don't realise, but every year we send millions of dollars to other countries overseas. It's part of our budget.
Penny Wong just promised $50 million to go to Sri Lanka.
Yeah. Well, we bolster Indonesia all the time, and you know, and yet these people turn around and they're ready to attack us if we don't do what they want. But they can't live without Western money. They just can't do it because they don't have prosperity.
When you consider how much it costs to build a flagpole here, 50 million is not a lot of money. But last question, we'll just squeeze it in from Sam.
That's 2 flagpoles, isn't it?
Yeah, that's only 2 flagpoles. You know, what is everyone complaining about?
And sorry, Sam, I didn't answer the other part of that question. I just realised the refugee one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So just quickly to answer that person's second question,
Jemima.
Jemima, sorry, yeah, I didn't catch the name. Sorry about that. But I'm glad to accept refugees who are genuine refugees, but I'm not glad to accept boat people who have thousands of dollars to pay for a boat trip across the ocean and destroy Australia's method of taking refugees. Because what they're doing is they're stopping true refugees from being accepted. And I'm sorry, but that's just not on. So am I against refugees? No, I'm for helping people. I mean, hopefully being a pastor and a politician who cares, and that's the only reason I'm here, is enough to demonstrate that. But people who want to be cheats and jump the queue, no way, Jose.
Well said. So this last question from Sam on Facebook. Is he running for state parliament?
Look, that's not really my decision. I'd like to, but I, like the rest of us, have to get pre-selection. So if that happens, yes. My intention is to run, but it's not just making a decision. There's a process that we all have to go through. So, yep.
And that would be the upper house again?
Yeah, look, if I run, it'll probably be upper house. I just feel that's where I should be.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we'll know by probably the end of October. All of us who are intending to run, will know by then. All
right. Well, we want to thank you very much for coming on and giving us so much of your time. You're an inspiration to us and a leader as well. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a hoot. Great catching up with you.
Look forward to seeing you in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, look forward to that. Love you to bits.
Yeah.
Take care.
Get your arms ready because I'm coming in for the big hug, mate.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if I can get little figurines of you guys I can put on my mantelpiece and, you know, sort of bow down and worship you every day.
Well, I tell you what.
You can just get a call flute. We'll send you some call flutes up.
Yeah, I could wallpaper the lounge room here with your call flutes.
That's awesome. No, we're working on some merchandise, I guess, so we'll get you a T-shirt or something if it ever happens.
Yeah, cool. Hey, yeah, truly, you inspire me too, guys. You're awesome. I love you to bits, and you know, all the best for the future. And we'll catch up in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely,
we love you as well. We love you too, Colin.
Thanks, Dal. Bless you.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
All right. How was that?
Such an inspiration. I can't believe people didn't. I can't believe. I just don't know. I don't know what people want.
He's the special soul.
I would say it goes back to, again, exposure. You know, I'm sure a lot of people unfortunately don't know who Colin Grigg is. And hopefully next time around they do. So hopefully we can get his name out there, because I would feel a hell of a lot safer having Colin Grigg in the federal or state parliament.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, I hope if he gets pre-selected, and then some of us if we decide, or if we get pre-selected and we decide to run, I just can't see how, like, all four of us or together just travel in New South Wales and just getting it out there, as a team. Like, it's just, I think that's the biggest thing about One Nation, is that a lot of the candidates this time round teamed up. And Stephen, you kind of came in just a little bit later. Rebecca and I had already formed our little alliance.
I'm isolated out here. There's no one around me.
Well, that's what I mean. It was just like, next time it would be so different. Next time it would be so different, because we would just, start campaigning. Like, put it this way, I really haven't stopped campaigning on the odd chance or whatever it is. I just feel like it's just, something that needs to be done. And I'm not even campaigning for me as such. I'm campaigning mainly for One Nation. Just I don't care who it is, who gets in, or whoever it is. Then everyone I met was really decent,
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's all, like, for me, it's all about making sure that my little daughter grows up in the same country that I grew up. So anyway, any closing comments before we wrap it up tonight?
No, nothing from me.
I'd just like to again thank Colin Grigg for being on, and I'd like to thank I look forward to Friday nights to see you guys, and it's really good to do this. And I just hope that our intention is to raise awareness that there are good people, and yes, we are new, and we might not be as polished as everybody else, but our intentions are good and our intentions are right. So we are trying to make a difference to better Australia and to bring back the good old Australian values. And we're fighting for the Aussie battler to achieve their hopes and dreams. And that's what we're here for.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So please follow us, subscribe on YouTube, and we're now on Spotify as well. So please follow us and spread the word as well. We are trying to achieve something good here. So if you agree with us and, think that other people would be interested in following us, please get the word out there. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.
See ya.